It's great to watch people that you can't fully relate to. I mean, what would be the fun of, only watching people you could fully relate to? He is so interesting because it's, there's a point where he's on like some morning news show and she's like, so free solo is where you climb. I don't get it. Here's what I don't get. You climb up these faces without ropes. He's like, I think you get it.
Where if you fall, you die.
Yeah, where if you fall, you die. He's like, yeah, I think you get it, actually. I think you get all of it. There's not really much more to it than that. We just watched Free Solo, which is a new documentary by National Geographic. It's about the sport of free soloing, which is rock climbing faces with no ropes, no safety precautions at all. So if you fall, you die. And specifically, this guy, Alex Honnold's free solo up El Capitan, the granite rock face in Yosemite. This very famous, apparently the largest of its kind on planet Earth.
Dizzying heights and multiple. I mean, first off, it's incredible. I thought it was so good. I enjoyed it so much, but emotionally, I felt like I was put through something physically. I liked him so much. I love how he's like a vegetarian who just eats hodgepodge meals with his spatula out of a pot.
Yes, it's so good. They really put that like 3 times into the movie, which is, he cooks. He lives in a van because he just drives up next to a mountain and just basically camps there and like lives out of a van. And then he's got a little stove in the van, and he makes like vegetable concoctions with eggs and other random stuff, and then he eats with the spatula he just cooked with, and he eats out of the pan like with a hot pot or something, whatever the fuck it would be underneath. Anyway, it's hilarious. It's like, such a
wonder why he doesn't date a lot until this movie.
Yeah, that was also the other thing where he gets the girlfriend, kind of like a little bit introduced into the story, and like, damn, it's like really inconvenient time for him to get a girlfriend, because now like someone's gonna be fucking devastated. Like, a lot of people would be devastated, but like it's a weird like suicidal thing. There's also a lot of tones in the movie that made me think like, what is the mind frame of these people? Because he was saying like, it might be that I just never do El Capitan, or I'm not the person, or maybe there's never a right person, or maybe the only person who ever does it is someone who just doesn't have a lot to live for. And you're like, okay, so that's a thing that like someone would like be maybe more likely to free solo like a ridiculous face if they like, it's a part of the calculus, like how much do I have to live for? And there's also another scene where he's like, she says she cares about me, but she doesn't care about me. Like, if I fucking just died tomorrow, like, she would just find a new person. It'd be fine. And you're like, whoa, this is weird. And then there's another scene where he's talking with the camera people. And he's got this very difficult part, the boulder problem, as they call it, which is like, I'm going to do these 2 things, and then I'm going to like, basically karate chop karate kick my leg out to this other surface, and you see him failing at it, like it's a weird thing. And then he tells the people like, don't put a camera at the boulder problem, like no one wants to see that. And you're like, what? Like, are you gonna fall? Like, is that's what's gonna happen? Like, what is this? Is this what you're gonna make the movie? Like, what is happening? Because there is this thing where like, you don't really get to know like what his total thing is. Like, there's a slight tinge, at least I felt it at some point. Obviously I knew he survived it going in because like he's still around, but there's like this slight tinge of like, is he like gonna fucking fall at this boulder problem thing? Like, is this what's it's gonna be?
Oh, I thought it was so, and they amped it up early, well before he actually does the climb, where it's such a difficult transition, where he's using like half, he's like, well, the first handhold you can get about half your thumb on it.
Yeah.
And then you're transitioning to your other hand. And then, it's precarious. There's a good handhold over there, and explains like, it's almost better to just jump. which feels way too gnarly for a free solo. So he's like, the other option is the karate kick, which is also absurd, where he's like off balance for a half second. I mean, and I did like how they walked it through instead of it just being a giant rock face that we can't quite understand. They kept using these graphs and explaining the different sections of it to kind of amp up the mindset he's going through, because not all of the rock face is significant. Some of it, it's like he knows he can climb it. It's all about those moments where it's like a real pinch, where it's like, this is where you could fall. And you know those moments on the face.
Because like
it's so tense.
The parts where he's like upside down, which for the normal person would be like, oh, that's impossible. Like, I cannot climb upside
Overhang,
down. He's just like, if I have like a good grip, like I'm good. The problem parts are all like, you're like fucking hugging something with a cupped hand, or you've got like your thumbs like this. Like, it's like there's no such thing. This is a fucking real wall. Like, and there's no even crack. It's none of the stuff. There's no crack. There's nothing to grab into. It's basically you're shimmying across little ridges. It's horrible. It's honestly
horribly stressful.
It's really like, I was like, oh god, I'm thinking about like just fucking head down for a little bit of this. But then I was like, okay, that's the thing in my mind. I was like, no, he is alive. Like, you already know the ending, you don't need to fear. You do not need to fear watching this.
And it's a thing he's climbed. Before the documentary started, 40 times he's climbed. It's not like he can't climb this face, but it's about doing it without the rope.
Yeah, but it's also when you climb with a rope, you can fall off a little ledge and you just swing back up and do it again. You can make a mistake.
You can lean on it even.
There's one part where there's really two rock faces in it that really get all the play, and you wouldn't necessarily care about these two, but the documentary does a very good job of upping the tension of particular parts, so that by the time it gets there, you're like, oh, like you feel it, like you know, like what the hardest turns are,
boulder
like the
problem.
fucking, it's the boss on level 2. Like, you know, it's like, you know exactly what's going on and exactly the problem, and you've seen him fail at it, because like in practice you fail at it. So him doing these things and really explaining like, oh, I'm going up and doing this free blast section, which is basically like a very slippery rock face where you're on these, you have these finger places that are not really full finger places, and sometimes when you transition from foot, you're basically just 1 foot away from death. And he's getting nervous in his mind about it, but it's like so bizarre because it's not like a normal person getting nervous. He's just like, I don't like the idea of it, but it's like words coming out, but not the same level of emotion that you'd be like, I don't like the fucking idea of that at all. It's just insane. And then I feel like the edit was pretty good too, because there was a lot of like the people who are professional rock climbers who are also the film crew, who are like, half the time it's just them, especially one guy being like, I can't watch this. And someone else radioing be like, can you please just let me know when he's past free blast? And they're like, he's already past that. He's already on halfway. And he's like, oh my god.
It's one of the few movies like where instead of ever going, oh, if he doesn't actually climb this, I'm gonna be so disappointed, I was like, he could stop and just decide not to climb this slope and I'd be relieved, because I'm so on edge after they amped up the different risk factors.
Yeah,
it felt so real. It felt too real, like just seeing him and knowing that there was no amount of inauthentic producing amping up the fear of that.
Yeah,
because you know that so many people, and you get the sense that if he's smart enough to make this his like crown achievement of free soloing, like he's good, he's had a career and he'll live. But if he's like his other contemporaries and just can't finish scratching that itch, like most or a significant portion of these guys they just go until they die.
Yeah, it's like it's the free soloing people have this a lot, and also the people who do tight ropes and stuff, they without any nets and anything, a lot of those people continue to do it. And like the patriarch, I know of the that family, like the Flying Melendez, like the patriarch of that, you know, he'd go across like a tightrope with the thing, and basically he just kept doing it until he was like 70. He never fell, and then he fell off the fucking thing at age 70 or something, you know. And these you really, it's almost like,
stop at your,
I feel bad. I would like for him to, because that would be an actual like model. Like, it's like, oh dude, you're like the best there ever was in this, and like, great, like Michael Jordan, get out.
Leave
like,
it on. Leave your achievement to stand for itself.
Yeah, because like it does. Like he did it perfectly. It's really awesome to watch, but you get this thing like I don't know. It's a weird sport. It's something you don't really want. It's like, okay, it's really cool that people are really good at rock climbing, and it's really cool that he does this thing that is so far beyond what anyone conceives of as possible. And in a way, like, you can kill yourself doing a lot of sports that people do. A lot of the motorcycle, like a lot of that shit. Boating, you know, downhill skiing. There's a lot of things you can kill yourself with, but this just seems so ever-present dangerous. And there's not a lot of people who do it who live a full life. There's just not a good relationship between knowing when you should retire and, you know, or knowing when your last climb is already behind you.
And it's so definitive too. I mean, they made a great metaphor. It's like trying to win gold in an Olympic event, except for if you don't get gold, you're dead.
Yeah.
It's even compared to extreme sports, which seems super dangerous, there's always that ambiguity. If you don't land the most dangerous trick you're going for, you could just be maimed.
Yeah.
For him, for the majority of the climb, he's like high enough to do like a base jump. Mm-hmm. He's hundreds or thousands of feet in the air. There's just no chance. One air, it's just, oh.
Yeah. I wonder too, it is funny too, because you think about like a lot of these people who are, I think about it for like UFC. A lot of the people who were the former champs who almost looked undefeatable at certain times in their career. I remember when Chuck Liddell had that giant fight, and you're like, no one can fucking. Chuck Liddell is like so great. It's like so long ago.
But against Rampage Jackson.
Yeah, and then he just gets fucking knocked out. No one's like ever seen that before. And you're like, and then he gets knocked out like many other times. Like something that never happened before, all of a sudden just happens more often. I remember same with the Fedor guy. This obviously shows like what era I was liked UFC the most, but Fedor, who was like the heavyweight champion, he looked like, I don't even know if he actually went over to UFC or he was in some other like league, but he was like the best heavyweight. And then all of a sudden, once you start one day you just start getting knocked out. You're like, oh shit, like before this time I didn't know that I could just like a punch could take me out. Now, and it's just, you think the same thing could happen someday. They're not gonna know the day that their fucking finger tweaks.
That was what was mind-blowing to me, is even if he's a great athlete, it's like you don't get water for a 3-hour period. I mean, you cramp, just something spontaneous happens. I mean, he's jamming his arm into a friggin' like rock slab for half of it. It's not like, oh, I'm going on a jog, like if all goes well. It's like he's putting his body in this crazy situation. That was mind-blowing to me. I think that's where it's like, okay, let's put him in the MRI, and they find out his amygdala just doesn't light up the same. Because you're like, okay, you're not the same as any of us.
He basically
has factor that out.
He has a very low to non-existent threshold for fear, just not reactive in the same way. He speaks like he's afraid of things, but something's off about it. It's not the same. And the MRI kind of shows that he's not really, he's just not as afraid of most things compared to other people. Do I have a phobia? I didn't really think I had a phobia, but definitely I don't like heights.
Your amygdala is working.
It's like, honestly, I'm like, I always thought about that. That's the classic example
your
of
brain's
like,
supposed to be like, you can die.
That's the classic example of like why evolutionary psychology is true. It's like, if you didn't have a fear of heights and a fear of snakes, if your ancestors didn't, then they would have walked off a cliff, or they would have been bitten by a snake. And so the people who didn't have the fear, they fell off the cliff, they got bitten by the snake. So you have the fucking, you're just the people who survived. That's why you have the fear. Because like, if you didn't have that fear, like you would have just getting weeded out by evolution. And it's like, wow, he didn't have that fear. what the fuck happened there?
Yeah.
I guess you could just be the best climber ever, or you could just die sometimes. I don't know.
Well, when you're as high as he is, it reminded me, with skydiving, it was an interest. When I went, there is something interesting I observed, which is once you're a certain height, your brain doesn't, I felt at least, and I'm scared of heights. Like if you put me on the top of a 40-foot cliff, or like I'm jumping off a cliff into water, I'm scared because my brain is like able to perceive the danger. When you're in a plane, it's kind of beyond evolution. Like you're just looking at a beautiful picture of the ground. And to me, it just didn't process at all, which is interesting. I wonder if that's just how his brain, his relationship with it is in general, just a disconnection from feeling that fear, as if, you know, because when he is like 2,000 feet, that's what reminded me of it. I'm like, once you're that high, it's not even a realistic perception. Like you're not even hitting the ground for 10 seconds or something more when you fall from that height.
Yeah, like it would be so long of a fall.
Yeah, like it's not even real, and so I'm like wondering if he just starts there. The heights made me uncomfortable. His mindset makes me uncomfortable. He's like absurdly dedicated and just all about performance in a way that I thought it was so ridiculous how when they introduce his girlfriend as a character in the movie and he's like, yeah, she climbs a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't really call her a climber by any means. And then she's like up on the mountain with him doing what to me looked like ridiculous, very advanced climbing. Like on super high up on these sheer rock faces that if any one of my friends was doing that, I'd be like, oh yeah, they're totally a climber. And he's just like such a mindset that he's like, oh yeah, doing what like the average good person is like, you're not even a climber. Because I'm that dedicated to this. Like, I only consider even doing something if you're, like, putting your life towards it. Did you notice that?
Yes,
How like his girlfriend was completely a climber, doing, like, more advanced only something that a real person into climbing would do. And he, like, described her as not really a climber.
I was just like, he's insane. He puts his life in her hands at the same time as calling her not much of a climber, because when you're doing the types of climbs they're doing, it's like two people, each person is the other person's lifeline at various times. You know, you lock in and then you're the person who's the other person's lifeline, and that is you know, it's a very dumb, or it seems very dumb in the context of everything he's saying about it, and it doesn't turn out so well all the time, as we know, and we'll just let people watch. But yeah, and it's just like he is a crazy person. There's no way to write all this. But he does make some good points, which are like, we don't think of things totally rationally. I mean, a person who goes to war, especially like war pre, you know, the gun and the targeted missiles and shit, but as someone who's just like was gonna go in and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go, like, we're gonna be sword fighting, and like any moment you could die in that kind of thing, right? Like, so he's just like, what I think about my thing like similar to like a samurai or something. Like, I've got my shoes or like my sword. It's like perfect. I'm like in the zone. Like, I got my gear. I got my plan. Like, I have training. I have practice. It's very interesting.
True warrior mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you're fighting for like your life. I think it's you have to go see it. I thought it was so good. He's such an interesting character, and there are moments that are just about life. I mean, my favorite thing said in the whole movie, he said he's talking about his girlfriend, which ups the tension in the whole film, and he's had, you know, obviously struggles forming relationships because his, you know, something he must do involves potentially dying, and a ton of his contemporaries have. But at one point, he has just bought his house in Vegas with his girlfriend, and he says, you know, for her, life is kind of like about being happy and, you know, being around people who make you fulfilled and enjoying your life, you know, being happy and cozy. And like, for me, I just, you know, anyone can be happy and cozy. Like, for me, life is about performance. And like, you're not gonna achieve certain things if you just prioritize happy and cozy. And it was, I mean, especially in the context of knowing he's about to do this climb, it was very fascinating.
I think he says, "What's the point of being happy and cozy?"
Yeah,
And
it
you're
was
like,
more direct and harsh.
I
that
don't
way.
even know how to process that. That's like literally a lot of people's goal. Like happy and cozy. Like that's the goal. And he's like, I don't get the point of that. And then he's doing this, I'm going to climb a ridiculous rock face with no ropes. And pretty much everyone on Earth is like, I don't get that. What's the point of that? Who wants to be happy and comfy? Like, what's the point of that?
I guess I have a stupid goal.
I love it. It's so much. There's a lot to him.
It's very challenged. I was like, whoa, okay. I thought, when I thought about him writing a book, I'm like, how do you fucking compete with that? Like, this guy's gonna make a story where he's willing to go that far? Like, he's willing to go that far? What do you have to do to be like, like, if that's what it takes to be the best, it's like, you know, at least in this area, like, I know I'm not going there. I'm not going to that.
It's insane. It's insane. Oh, so it was...
Because it's not even pushing yourself to the point of vomiting while running. It's not dedicating all your time. It's putting your life on the line.
Yeah.
It's sacrificing. It's willing to risk every other thing of value, including girls, which, like, his relationships, which was really interesting, where he's like... And that was also an intense part where he's talking to his girlfriend. She's like, do I factor in? Like, if I'm a factor, does that make you maybe value, you know, like something like having a long life? And he's like, you know, at this point, no, not really. Like, that's not a factor. He just says it straight up.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's... Maybe he will stop. Maybe it'll be a good thing.
Is he not done? I thought he's got to be done now.
It seems like he's done. He gave indications in the movie, like, I don't know if there's anything else more ridiculous on Earth to be done. Maybe someone will find out and maybe they'll do it. Maybe it won't be me. Maybe it will be me. But, you know, it's like, I don't know. It was, I mean, overall, though, it was a very, very good documentary. I think there's a decent chance that this is nominated for like an Oscar because it's so well shot and it's very compelling.
And the Oscar goes to Free Solo.
I loved it.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah. I thought it was so interesting. He's such a... I just like how weird he is in this direct, committed way, and... He doesn't make sense to me at all, but he's not easy to put in some box of dysfunction. And just the sheer tension, the amount of feelings that it gave me just to watch it.
Yeah.
I think not many documentaries or movies have put me through. Like, the tension is real. I thought it was super, super interesting and one of the most impressive athletic feats I've ever been walked through. Yeah. I was astonished he accomplished this.
Yes,
I was wildly impressed.
And it's so beautiful to watch. The thing for me, I think, is I think that, and I'm, you know, obviously one of the only people who rewatches documentaries a bunch, but I expect that I'll probably rewatch this in the future, and I expect that I'll probably like it more in the future. But the first time watching it was like, I don't like heights. Like, when he like finished it and they were like showing some crop shots and I'm like not sure how far he is from the edge, I'm like, get away from the edge.
I was
like,
yeah.
I'm like,
stop looking. I was like, now he's gonna be overconfident and he's gonna fall off.
He's gonna do a fucking gust of wind. But that's the problem. Like, I have a specific issue with heights like that. Like, I don't like getting even like, I could like trip and fall and go off an edge. Like, I don't even like
getting body distance.
Yeah, I don't like getting body distance away from an edge, but I don't even like, oh, what if I like tripped a little bit and like did a roll? I want to be like trip, roll, still not gonna fall off the edge. So I got a problem with the whole thing, and I watched the whole movie, and it is gorgeous and it is incredible, and he's a very interesting character, and there's a lot of great people and bits and all this kind of interesting stuff about the mind. But I was so just like, it was like hard to watch that I think I was just distracted. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I will probably enjoy it more the next time when I'm like, oh, it's like, this is the perfect athletic, achievement, and I
Yeah.
know he's gonna do it. But
Yeah.
but the first watch was just hard. I mean, that's the reality. It was just hard, but great, and I think it was really well done, and I wish I was less distracted by how freaked out I was watching it and could just appreciate the beauty of what it was and the devotion that he's showing and the just incredible nature of the accomplishment, which in many ways seems like the most incredible human accomplishment that's ever been done. I mean, there is a way to look at this that is a person climbing without rope, without safety, the largest rock face on planet Earth. And what more incredible athletic accomplishment is there? I mean, someone winning a bunch of games in a sport seems like not a thing compared to this. And so it's really wild to see and to think about in the scheme of human history, how incredible this accomplishment is. But I think I'll like it more when I watch it another time and can focus more on some of the parts that I know are there, but I was so like fucking affected by watching the thing.